Hello and welcome. Here we review movies, and today we've got a controversial film called The American Society of Magical Negroes. It's a fantasy romance with a side of comedy and a highly offensive concept. Aaron, a young artist struggling with his self-confidence and his bank account, is recruited into a secret society of magical black people who dedicate their lives to making white people's lives easier. Kobe Libby wrote and directed the film, which stars Justice Smith as Aaron Coleman as Barber, and Ann Lee Bogan as Lizzie. As usual, I'll start with the good and then talk about the bad, and finally cap off with a few personal thoughts about the film and its subject matter. Aaron's personal journey is about a young man finding his confidence and learning to stand up for himself, and that part works well. He isn't the most likable character, but his lack of confidence is something that many of us can relate to. Justice Smith is a veteran of playing that awkward young guy who grows into a more confident man, and he does a great job of the role here too. He really knows how to suck the air out of the room and make an audience cringe, and he also ekes out a few chuckles and does a great job of his big monologue. He portrays Aaron's emotional journey in a believable manner, and stands out as the only somewhat sane person in a movie full of wacky stereotypes. The rest of the cast takes those stereotypes and does their best to draw out some laughs while making the film's message stick. The visual journey is also cleanly executed. The camera work is steady, captures the emotions well, and the sets are all modern-looking buildings with a chic design to them. The shots are nicely lit and colorful too. There's even a few artistic shots of the city and nature that are a nice touch. Behind the visual journey is a solid mixture of Harry Potter-esque instrumentals, jazz songs, and emotional tracks. They support the emotional journey and build a bit of atmosphere for the film's world. The Harry Potter-style songs make the society feel a bit more magical, the jazz plays during transitions and is just nice to listen to, and the emotional tracks attempt to bring out a bit of emotion. None of them are overly impactful or memorable, but they do a good job in the moment. Alright, now on to the bad. The film really only has one type of humor, and if you're not into it, it won't be funny at all. It's about oblivious people showing how ignorant they are and laughing at them for it. The love story doesn't work either. Aaron and Lizzie get one good interaction between them before the premise of the film gets in the way. After that, their relationship becomes a bit of an afterthought to the film's message, and they don't develop it in any meaningful way. I was left wondering what the two of them even liked about each other. The premise of the film promises that there's going to be some magic in it, but the magic is used very infrequently, and the coolest use of magic that we see is a bit of teleportation and levitation. The visual journey is pretty mundane with its lack of big magical moments and visual gags. Alright, now on to my personal thoughts on the film. I wanted to like it. When I first saw the trailer, I thought it was an offensive comedy that was going to cleverly reveal a message that we could all agree with at the end. Hell, I recently watched Book of Clarence, and that's exactly what that film was. A clever comedy with a message of gold at the heart of it. The American Society of Magical Negroes, sadly, is just an unfunny film that feels incredibly tone-deaf. Its core message, black people deserve to live peaceful lives without judgment, is hard to hear when the film consists entirely of black people who treat literally every white person as a monolith. Like stupid white savages that have to be talked down to, otherwise they'll foam at the mouth and start attacking. The only thing more hypocritical than that is the highly educated black artist who makes yarn sculptures and lives in a huge studio apartment crying about how unfair the world is. He's clearly born to money, probably comes from a very safe neighborhood, and is clearly as racist as everyone else. Aaron even screams it out at the end and tries to get Jason to acknowledge Aaron's reality and all of its nuances while simultaneously denying Jason's. It's truly mind-bending how blind you'd have to be to write something like this. The film had so much potential, and instead of doing something interesting with it, they created racist garbage and polished it until it looked nice. It's a pretty film with a bit of fun music under it and actors who are trying to make it work, but a script that just doesn't execute any of its high-level concepts well. The characters are mostly unlikable, the humor isn't funny unless you're at least partially racist, and the humor is all it's got to offer. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 5 out of 10. Just as a final thought, I think it's worth exploring the concept of the magical Negro because it's utterly ridiculous and points out a real flaw in the thinking of people who believe in it. A magical Negro is defined as a magical black character that appears to help a white protagonist grow as a person. First off, all supporting characters, magical or non-magical, exist to facilitate the protagonist's story. So even if the character is black, this isn't somehow special. There are also plenty of white magical characters throughout all of history that appeared to help the protagonist grow. This is a pretty cliche concept dating back to the earliest human stories. Would you call Merlin a magical cracker? How about Alfred Pennyworth or Albus Dumbledore? If there's nothing weird about magical white folk helping a down on their luck character, then there's nothing wrong with the black character doing it. The only racist person is the one who sees supporting characters and removes all of their agency so they can put them in a box to belittle them. Anyways, those are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye.